America's Heartland is made possible by Farm Credit, financing agriculture and rural America since 1916. Farm Credit is cooperatively owned by America's farmers and ranchers. Learn more at farmcredit.com. Crop Life America, representing the companies whose modern farming innovations help America's farmers provide nutritious food for communities around the globe.
Hi, I'm Rob Stewart. We share some very special sights and sounds with you on America's Heartland this time. We'll take you from coast to coast to meet some farm and ranch families with special talents when it comes to being creative in the country. Ready for some mountain music? This Tennessee craftsman builds instruments that harken back to America's past. A Wisconsin dairy farmer finds his niche as a primitive American woodcarver. A Kansas farm family creates a country attraction that teaches city folks a little about agriculture and a lot about having fun. And sure, it's a sheep ranch, but this Wyoming woman uses her wool for one-of-a-kind pieces of art. It's a creative side of country life, just ahead on America's Heartland.
You can see it in the eyes of every woman and man in America's heartland, living close to the land. There's a love for the country and a pride in the brand in America's heartland, living close to the land.
Do you consider yourself a creative person? Spend any time on a farm or a ranch and you'll discover folks who are multi-talented with skills that run the gamut, from mechanic to irrigation experts. And many of those same folks have creative talents as well. Painting, music, maybe they're even the kings or queens of swing dancing. Well, all across the Heartland, you'll find unique skills and unique creations. Whether it's for a job or just a hobby, hammering out the best horseshoe means you have a talent that few others can claim. Baking? Using Heartland wheat, bakers turn out exceptional breads and pastries with recipes and techniques that may go back generations. And let's not forget collecting as a hobby, like the folks in Cawker City, Kansas, who continue to collect twine for what they claim is the world's largest ball of twine. So, where to start? Well, let's take you to Wyoming, where we found a woman who uses wool in a very special way. It's a Wyoming legend that these hot spring hills of Thermopolis are filled with the spirits of days gone by. And so goes the legend of Sheep Queen Lucy Moore, who bravely grazed her sheep in the graceful peaks and valleys of Copper Mountain in the late 1800s. More than a century later, sheep are still running this land at Lucy's Sheep Camp, named after the Sheep Queen herself. But there's a new queen of the sheep these days, Billie Jo Norsworthy, herding with her family in the shadows of Copper Mountain. But this is a sheep shearing business for all things wool. For Billie Jo, it all began with a needle and a dream and 4 sheep.
I think the way I was raised was to be a big thinker, and so to have only limited myself to 4, that's just not really my personality.
4 quickly grew into 150 sheep. Billie Jo raises them for their soft wool coats, turns the fleece into yarn, and sells it.
So all of this wool, everything that you're using today that is wool.
Each week, Billie Jo hosts crafting clubs to celebrate the wonders of wool at her specialty shop right in the middle of her fields filled with sheep.
It's kind of like your signature as a fiber artist.
Billie Jo's creative focus is part of her passion. Here she celebrates the fabric of this country.
So I thought, what better way to incorporate, kids and people that live in the city to agriculture than using wool. It's something that's a little more familiar to everybody and something that they can take home with them, whether they live in the city or the country. You don't just farm anymore. You don't just ranch. A lot of times you have to have another income, and I didn't want to work in town.
In her backyard, under the old cottonwood trees filled with chirping birds. Pull by pull, petal by petal, Billy Jo spins wool into yarn, spinning in the same yard where her father once played as a child.
You talk about the need for people to be able to diversify.
Diversification is extremely important in agriculture. It seems like if you kind of get entrenched in what Grandpa used to do, times change, expenses change, demands change. So you better be thinking out of the box.
This is your wall of wool back here, and I can't help but see some names. Aretha.
Yeah.
What's up with that?
Aretha Franklin.
Yeah.
I was a music major in college, so we named them after musicians.
And it's that personal touch too. People know where they're getting their wool from, literally, from which animal.
And sometimes people email me and say, oh, I got Aretha's fleece last year, can I have it again this year?
The soft fleece comes from a coated sheep. Each bag of wool is a year's worth of growth from a single animal. But it's a lifetime of dreams for Billy Jo and her dad, here in the shadow of Copper Mountain.
I don't know how you could look at this and know that you own it for now and not feel blessed. I mean, it's green and God gives you the wildflowers, and it's nature, and we get to be immersed in it.
Wool is used for many more things than sweaters. Wool fabric is used in covering the rubber core of tennis balls, and a regulation baseball is wound with more than 100 yards of wool yarn before being covered by cowhide.
If you're like most of us, a regular job may leave you little time for a hobby or an outside interest. But those with a drive to express themselves always seem to find the time to answer that creative spirit. You know, running a dairy farm demands lots of, no pun intended, hands-on work. But Jason Schultz traveled to Wisconsin, where one dairy farmer also found time to carve out his own creative niche.
I just start hacking away. Because after you do it enough, you know where the cut's got to go.
In just a few weeks, Dick Hazart will turn this block of wood into a horse. And soon after, he'll put it together with this water wagon and driver, add another horse, and create an old-fashioned fireman's water wagon. And when it's done, it won't end up in a museum or a craft store.
They're kind of hidden back here in a little shed, aren't they?
Yeah, that's right.
This carving will find a place in this increasingly crowded shed on his Wisconsin farm.
That could have been the first one I made.
Right here.
Yeah, I had a set of chisels I bought at Kmart, you know, for about $3. It took a while.
It looks pretty good
Wow,
for a first attempt.
Not bad at all. That's what got me doing the second one.
And after that first foray into carving in the mid-1980s, he was hooked.
What's this here? Card game?
Looks that way, yeah.
Oh, wait, what's this here on his sleeve? I didn't even see this.
Yeah. Looks like kind of a shifty one, in my opinion.
After a lifetime working as a dairy farmer, he spent his retirement in a corner of a barn turned into a woodworking shop.
Look at this guy's eyes, and the title of this one is
Catching Hell.
He's in trouble for something.
Yep.
While he's carved dozens of figurines, he doesn't carve the likenesses of actual people.
I leave that to more talented people than myself.
Besides figurines, he also carves farm implements. Some by memory, others, well, he's much more familiar with, like this 1947 Farmall M tractor.
I still got that same M from when I was 14 years old in the garage there. I'm still using it. So boy, that tells you something about quality those days, huh?
Dick's carvings of days gone by are in many ways a trip through his childhood, a time when modern conveniences didn't exist, like indoor plumbing.
That's the first thing you put included in your prayers at night when you went to bed. Don't let me have to go to the outhouse.
Save it till morning.
Oh, God, yes.
But with life, there is also pain. His father died when Dick was only a month old. He was raised on the same farm where he lives today by his grandmother.
Took over the farm when I was 21. My wife and I got married in 1954, and that's when I took over the farm.
And Dick points to another painful time in his life as a turning point that led him to find a pastime. In 1984, when his son Richard Jr. died suddenly at age 28.
After he died, they did an autopsy. They found out he had a hole in his heart in the spot where they couldn't see it. He was my friend, you know. And when he'd come out here, the other kids would go in the house to see Mom, but he'd come out there and look for Dad, you know. And so we had a real close relationship, and it was hard.
Carving turned out to be cathartic.
It gets your mind off of it, you know. It gives you something else to do, something to look forward to every day. The tears come, you know, for no reason at all.
But he still had a farm to run and a herd of dairy cows to be milked twice a day. In 1991, health issues forced him to hang up his milking hat. Dick is proud of his carvings. He doesn't sell them, but he hopes someday to loan them to a museum for others to enjoy as well. And about his rule of not carving actual people, well, he's broken it only once. A few feet from his workbench, a familiar face watches over him. His late son.
I carved that one there. That's him when he was 14 years old, and he was serving Mass over the church over here.
Since Wisconsin calls itself America's Dairyland, it's only fitting that the dairy cow is the state's official domesticated animal. And unlike many other states, Wisconsin has an official state beverage. Care to guess? Yep, it's milk.
Rural residents living on the plains or wide open spaces of the American West in the 1800s had to be creative to make their hard-scrabble lives a bit more enjoyable. That often meant making their own music. A similar interest prompted rural folks in the mountain communities of the eastern U.S. to create musical instruments from the wood of the trees that surrounded their homes. So are you ready for a few tunes? Well, our Sarah Gardner says those traditions are very much alive in one Tennessee community.
In the early days of the American Republic, the rolling landscape surrounding the Great Smoky Mountains was home to some of America's first farmers and ranchers. It was also home to a uniquely Appalachian sound created by a uniquely American musical instrument. An instrument called a dulcimer. Connie Clemmer and her husband Mike are well known to dulcimer musicians from all around the world. Working in his small shop in this rural Tennessee community, Mike uses native woods from the forest nearby to create one-of-a-kind musical instruments.
The local woods that I use are the walnut, sassafras, butternut, cherry, a lot of woods like that.
Translated from its Latin origins, the word dulcimer means a sweet song, something that early Appalachian settlers were trying to replicate from the stringed instruments enjoyed by their European ancestors.
Pretty much invented here. It was made here out of necessity to have an instrument. Very few things came over the mountain that didn't get broke, so they had to basically use what they had here to build something.
Mike first began building dulcimers in 1976. It was a hobby then, a hobby that became his life's work as he transitioned from his regular 9-to-5 sales job.
We were empty nesters, and Mike's job of about 9 years was not really going too well. You know, it was kind of going south, and we knew it, and so We were just laying in bed one night, and I just said, honey, you know, if you had a blank check, what would you do? And he said, I'd go back up to Townsend and build dulcimers.
And this is the steam bent walnut, and then when I set it in against the kerfs, after I have the ends put on, and it just flows right in there.
Mike constructs up to 8 dulcimers at a time. Each is a project that takes weeks, turning a musical instrument into a singular work of art.
Well, the back is made out of black walnut, and that is pretty, but actually it has a lot to do with the sound. Where you have a knot is going to be hard, and when it's hard like that, it has a different sound than like a piece here that would be soft. Okay.
Just like those early American dulcimer makers, Mike has taken the basic form and crafted an unusual variation.
And this is something that I invented, I guess now about 11 years ago. Actually, it actually has an opening in the back, and this is a practice pad, drum pad, and then I put that with the dulcimer fingerboard.
Connie's in charge of handling orders on the dulcimers. While some of the instruments will cost hundreds of dollars, there's often a backlog on having enough stock to meet demand.
We've had our struggles, you know, because anytime you have a business that takes off that fast and that grows as fast as it did, you know, you have growing pains, and we've had them.
But it's also the way that Mike and Connie market their dulcimers that helps keep sales humming, like their free concerts.
And now every Saturday night during the season, from the second weekend of May through October, every Saturday night at 7 we have our picking on the porch. And it's just fun. It's all free, and everybody brings their lawn chair, gets in our backyard next to the river, and we just play.
This country connection involves both novice and experienced musicians.
Everybody can get involved. There'll be some sing-alongs, but mainly it's people that come in to do the classes on Saturday will perform, and yeah, it's a really good Saturday evening.
Had you ever played with anybody who played a dulcimer before? Were you?
Never. I was not familiar with the instrument at all, but Mike plays chords, and it just opened up a whole different thing for me. He's an amazing player.
Big ending. There you go. You did good.
Mike says dulcimers tend to sell themselves, especially when folks learn how easy it is to play the instrument.
People will stop by, they've heard of a dulcimer, they've heard the name, somebody has said something about it, but they just wasn't sure. And they'll come in and they'll start playing, we'll get them playing, and they'll leave with one. If you've got a 10-minute attention span, you can learn how to play the dulcimer. It's just basically a series of numbers. And I've had kids that were 6, 7, and 8 sit down and learn how to play, and I've had folks that were in their 80s and 90s that would sit down, always wanted to play something, but never been able to, and sit down and actually play a song or two in about 10 minutes. So we're going to play a song. I'm going to play Old Susanna.
Okay.
And now I'm going to say a number. And when I say a number, you put your finger where the number would be, and then hit all the strings one time for each number that I tell you.
Okay.
Okay? So 0, 1, 2, 4, 4, 5, 4, 2, 0.
It was easy. That was amazing.
And that's what you do. They have done everything. You see how you have wide places and short places?
Uh-huh.
Well, what that is, if you know about music, is whole step, half step, whole step, whole step, whole step, half step, which is, there's your do, re, mi.
Mm-hmm.
So 90% of all the songs that you know is that, and that's all you have to do.
Although it took years for Mike to find his life's work, He and Connie say they now have a career that's music to their ears and a career that carries on a Heartland tradition.
Not just the dulcimer, but the old traditional mountain music period.
And it's just been a real blessing how God's taken care of all this stuff. Just kept us and kept blessing us.
There's some good eating in Tennessee. Folks head to the volunteer state for the National Cornbread Festival each spring in South Pittsburgh, Tennessee. And if you're traveling to Memphis, pick up some ribs after you stop by Elvis's home at Graceland. The city is famous for its wet ribs, dry rub, and pulled pork sandwiches.
Being creative can involve making music or developing your artistic talents, but it can also mean encouraging commerce as you look to enhance opportunities in your rural community. Well, that's happening in many parts of the Heartland. Agritainment attracts visitors who may want to know more about farms or ranches. Farm stays are one way, but our John Lobertini found a Kansas family farm with a different approach to creative commerce in the country.
Welcome to Gardner, Kansas, where agriculture and entertainment make up an unusual partnership. This 62-acre piece of Kansas farmland is part pumpkin patch, part playground. Kirk and Julie Bergeron admittedly have a soft spot for the orange orb, but folks here in the Heartland were initially confused.
What kind of nut is this? Why would anyone pay to come to a farm? That's where you work. And then afterwards, they thought, you know, that's not such a bad idea.
For years, the Bergerons were a military family, following Papa Kirk all over the country. 8 Air Force jobs in 11 years.
Hey, how are you guys doing? Yeah?
When they got homesick, they wanted to get back to the land, and a pumpkin patch was where they wanted to be. You see, Julie is from Iowa, Kirk, a native of Nebraska.
For me, it meant that we were home. So it didn't matter what state we lived in and what city. When we would go out to a pumpkin patch, it was like a trip home for us.
Surely there were already pumpkin patches in Kansas, but not one quite like this. KC Pumpkins features 40 attractions: trains, pedal cars, paintball guns, jumping pillows, and petting zoos.
I think they're hungry, aren't they?
Katie Young has made 15 trips here over the years with her preschool classes. The fun makes teaching a little bit easier.
We usually do the life cycle of the pumpkin, and we show them at, the pumpkin patch where they get to go pick out a pumpkin, and we talk about the different, how it starts from a seed and goes to the flower.
Places like this are becoming more and more popular all over the country. A roller coaster ride could take 90 seconds, but a romp here in a hay maze could last a half an hour. It's a cheaper and maybe even more fulfilling day out for families looking for a simpler way of life in a tough economy. Farmers have long diversified to stay profitable, but agri-entertainment is something new, and entertainment is the key word here. You won't find this zip line at an amusement park or anything like, ready for this, a gourd gun.
All right, aim and fire. Very good.
But the pumpkin launcher,
Hey guys, you guys want to shoot the cannon? All right.
is the wow factor that brings in the big crowds.
Whenever you're ready, just push that, pull it up, flick it.
Kirk says the family plan seems to be paying off.
I don't know what our numbers are, but we've had to expand the parking lot several times, which is a good problem to have. Nice shot.
So what kind would you like? We have green apple and lemon lime.
After 8 years of hard labor in this family business, 19-year-old Taylor swore she'd never return once she left for college. But farming was in her blood.
I ended up coming back and I brought friends too. All right, there you go. She came home almost every week in October because it is a part of us.
Her brothers pull their weight too.
2, 1.
Jacob and Eli clear the fields and work the attractions.
And when we have a work day, we all come out and work.
2 rabbits. 1, 2.
This is a hands-on day for everyone here, giving kids and their parents a connection to the Heartland.
My kids like to do what other kids like to do. They play the computer, they watch the TV. But this is one thing that they're willing to give that up for.
And the Bergerons echo that connection to the land, family values, and family entertainment.
When people don't have money or at certain times like the Depression, They look for comfort foods, meaning old-time fun, simple stuff, going to dances.
We want people to come and have a great time and feel like they get a good value for their money. Very important to us.
Well, that's going to do it this time. Thanks for traveling the country with us on America's Heartland.
We know that we pass along a lot of information to you in every program, and in case you missed something or you just want to check out videos from this or other shows, we make it easy. Just log on to our website at americasheartland.org. And of course, there's lots going on in our social media arena as well. You can find us there. We'll see you next time right here on America's Heartland.
You can purchase a DVD or Blu-ray copy of this program. Here's the cost. To order, just visit us online or call 888-814-3923.
You can see it in the eyes of every woman and man in America's heartland, living close to the land. There's a love for the country and a pride in the brand in America's heartland, living close to the land.
America's Heartland is made possible by Farm Credit, financing agriculture and rural America since 1916. Farm Credit is cooperatively owned by America's farmers and ranchers. Learn more at farmcredit.com. Crop Life America, representing the companies whose modern farming innovations help America's farmers provide nutritious food for communities around the globe.